Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a review and demo on the Rimmel Stay Matte Foundation. I know this is an older foundation, but I actually asked on both Twitter and my Instagram stories which affordable foundation you guys wanted me to do a review on, and someone said they wanted to see the Rimmel Stay Matte Foundation, so I picked it up in the shade 103 True Ivory, and I actually think it matches me pretty good. This is not a first impressions, this is a full review. Oh, yucky. Don't eat it, please. Wyatt is here helping out with our review. I set him up with a snack, but of course, oh, now I messed things up. Of course, now he wants to be part of the action. I will be doing a demo later on in the video, but I just want to get my full review out first. So this foundation retails for $11.50 Canadian, and it has 15 shades, which is an expanded shade range from when they first launched. They had 8 shades, I believe, and it has a 4.4 star rating on their website. So people really seem to like this. This does have a very strange, lightweight, moussey texture, which again I show in the demo. It's really strange. It's definitely not a liquid foundation. When you put it on your hand, it just kind of stays in whatever formation that it landed on your hand in. It does have about medium coverage. Of course, I have my full face done now with my bronzer, blush, and highlight, but I would say that this foundation is a solid medium coverage. I do find that the finish is pretty powdery matte, at least on me, especially on my forehead. And I do have a lot of texture and acne scarring going on. And I do find that it can emphasize that quite a bit just because it is so matte, which is common. I have been testing this through the really hot, sweaty months of summer, and I do have oily skin, and it holds up decent. Like I said, it has a powdery matte finish at first, but around the 5-hour mark, it starts to have like a more like luminous, natural type finish, but definitely doesn't look greasy, and it doesn't break apart in my oily areas, which for the most part is right around my nose. One major con with this foundation is that it is not transfer proof, transfer resistant in the slightest. I don't expect my foundations to be like super transfer proof, although I do have ones that are. I'm talking like talk on the phone and that whole section of your foundation has rubbed off, scratch your face if you have a hair or something on it and your nails are just caked in foundation. It still looks decent, but it definitely wears away a little bit patchy depending on where you touch it, or if you give someone a hug, it is going to be on their shirt. And for me, that was the biggest deal breaker, if you would, as to why I don't love this foundation. I do find that the shade I got does oxidize a little bit, and I say oxidize and not dry down because it gets a bit of an orange tinge to it after, I don't know, like 10-15 minutes of wear. And even when I put it on my hand in the store, I noticed, because I was going to get the next shade up because originally it matched my tan a little bit better, but after it oxidized a little bit, I realized the shade down a little bit actually worked out better for me once it oxidized. I'm going to now insert the footage of me applying this foundation this morning in here, and then we will talk about my favorite ways to prep my skin for this foundation, as well as how I like to apply it, and then we'll wrap things up. as you guys saw in the demo, I like to really prep my skin well before going in with this foundation. I always do my base makeup soon after doing my morning skincare routine, so my skin is nice and moisturized. And even so, I like to go in with a hydrating primer with something like this Too Faced Hangover RX primer. Although I have oily skin, I do have lots of texture and I can be a little bit dehydrated, and this foundation just applies way better if your skin is well moisturized and well hydrated before going in with it. It helps it from looking too dry. I then like to go in with the pore filling primer, and as you guys know, the Smashbox pore minimizing primer is my favorite. It just works best for my skin. I don't find it to be too slippery. Foundations don't slip off of it, and I just apply that where my pores are the largest, so right next to my nose, across my cheeks a little bit to about here, a little bit in the center of my forehead, and a little bit on my chin as well. And then any excess I just kind of smooth over. A lot of the texture and acne scarring I have over here to help smooth things out even more. I then apply the foundation with a foundation brush. Today I used the e.l.f. foundation blurring brush. It's a lot smaller and I like how soft it is, and it really blends out the foundation well in my opinion, and it's super affordable, but any foundation brush will do. Because of the moussey texture, I find picking it up originally with a sponge and going in, it doesn't really like to spread evenly over my skin like what happens when you use a liquid foundation. You just kind of pounce it and the liquid just like, you know, disperses across your skin and blends out. And with the moussey texture, I was finding I would have to go over like the smallest area like 5 million times, and it just took me so long to apply it with a sponge on its own. So I would apply it originally with a brush. Make sure I drag it down my neck as well because you don't want any harsh lines. Thank you. Thank you. It's way over. I personally don't love how my foundation looks when I go in with just a brush, so I just like to go in with a beauty sponge after and smooth out any brush strokes, anything like that. Also to get around my eyes a little bit better. So I personally prefer to go over it with a sponge. I apply my concealer and my powder with a sponge anyway, so it's not really like an extra step for me. This sponge is one of my absolute favorites. I got it in an Ipsy a really long time ago. It's from Bogachi. I have a few other tools from them as well, and just random side note, I really do love this sponge. If I were to rate this foundation, not on a number scale, but like a letter grade, I would give it a solid B. I like it. I will continue to use it, but it's definitely not holy grail status for me. There's just, it's a little too finicky for me, and I think it has to do with the texture of the foundation itself. I just prefer a liquid foundation. That's obviously personal preference. I love doing full reviews of products that you guys request, so if you have anything else that you would like for me to review, then leave your suggestions down in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's quick review, please do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!